All right, guys, good morning. Today we're going to be reviewing your first page of the study guide that I issued to you guys out before the break. If you haven't been able to get this, if you did not get this before the break, make sure you download it from the Teams app. It is on the files, so make sure that you get that as soon as possible and work on page 1. What I'm going to review is how to conduct absolute location, latitude, and longitude. And so I just want to remind you of a few things. Make sure you're labeling the map whenever you're seeing questions like these on question 1, 2, and 3, because those are things that you need to practice in order to get the question right. It's like in math, you have a formula, and if you don't follow the steps to that formula, you're going to get the question wrong. And so the first question is asking which location is within the continent of Africa. Okay, and so now I need to go back to my map, and the first thing I know I need to do is label all the continents of the world. And I taught you guys a song. Remember, that song is North America, South America, Europe, Asia, and Australia, Africa, Antarctica. These are the continents. Clap, clap. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and label that using the song in your head. If you need to hum it, if you need to sing it, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and pause the video at this time and label this on your own, and then you can check for understanding once you're done. Press play and then see if you got the answers correct. Make sure you're doing this in a pencil. I'm going to do this in pen because this is going to be the answer key for the class, and I want you to do this in a pencil. So please make sure you're able to do this in pencil in case you get a question wrong. As far as the continents go, you can erase it and label it correctly. So once you're done labeling, you should have played the video and checked to see if you got all these correct. If you did not, make sure you answer them correctly, or erase them and correct them, please. So now we're going back to the question, which of the following locations is within the continent of Africa? So you have a few different choices here. You have 30 degrees south, 60 degrees west, 54 degrees north, 112 degrees west, 48 degrees north, 105 degrees east. Then we have the 0 degree line, that's interesting, and 30 degrees east. Remember, I also taught you guys to label the equator and prime meridian when we talked about absolute location and when using latitude and longitude. Okay, so we're going to start with the equator. I'm going to use the color green for that. So I'm just going to go ahead and highlight that and then label that equator. Most maps have this labeled, and if you look here, it is the 0 degree line. Remember, latitude lines, which the equator is a latitude line, go up and down like a ladder. Latitude, flatitude. So think of the flat lines, and you climb them up and down like a ladder, latitude. Okay? So we have the equator, 0 degrees, and then we have the other 0 degree line going up and down, which is dividing the world between east and west. Okay? And we call this the prime meridian. So remember, equator divides the earth between the northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. The prime meridian divides the earth between the eastern and western. Remember, if you need to take note of this, hemi means half, and then so if we put hemisphere, it equals basically half of a sphere, right? So we have the northern hemisphere, the northern half of the sphere of the Earth, and then we have the southern half of the sphere of the Earth, eastern and western. Now, what the lines are called that divide the Earth between that is the equator and prime meridian. Okay, now going back to our question number 1. Remember, latitude is first, and then longitude is second. So you're always going to see north and south in the first number. You will never see east and west. You remember, for longitude line, so it's latitude and longitude, you're traveling east to west. So latitude up and down, so you're going to be using the numbers here on the side. So all of these numbers here on the side, you can make note of this, are your latitude numbers. Or your degrees, we call them degrees, coordinates. Okay. All the numbers at the top and the bottom of the grid or the map are going to be your longitude numbers or degrees. Okay. So again, equator, latitude lines, you're going to climb them up and down. These are the first degrees you're going to see in a written coordinate. Longitude lines, the numbers that travel east to west, the ones that are at the top and the bottom of the map, are going to be the second coordinates, okay? So one trick that we can definitely do is, if we're looking for a continent like Africa, we can see which quadrant is Africa in. It's not just in the northern hemisphere, it's not just in the southern hemisphere, it's in both, right? So that 0 degree line is looking interesting right now, right? That latitude number. So let's go ahead and test it out. Let's go ahead and go through each one. And again, the trick was finding the coordinate, so we know that 0 degrees is possible. Now we're looking at the longitude numbers, and then that divides the Earth between east and west, which are these numbers here. We know it's on the eastern hemisphere, okay? It's mostly on the eastern hemisphere. So all the ones that say western, we can automatically get rid of, okay? So now, out of process of elimination, we've got rid of 2 out of the 4 answer choices. Now you have a 50% chance of getting this question right. Now it's a 50-50 shot. You got this right. You can choose C, you can choose D. Again, at this time, pause the video, see what you can do. Okay, now let's work this out. We're going to work out 48 degrees north and 105 degrees east. Now here's the process I want you to work out, again, when doing latitude and longitude. It's really helpful if you use color pens or pencils when doing this. So I'm going to use my green for latitude numbers and my yellow for longitude numbers. We're looking for 48 degrees north. So again, latitude like a ladder. So I'm using the numbers here on the sides. And I see a 30 degrees and a 60 degrees. I know half of that is 50. Okay, and that is north because it's on the northern part of the hemisphere, right? If we go down here, we go between 30 and 60, 50, and this is going to be 50 degrees south. Well, I'm looking for 48, so it's just going to be right below 50, right? So I'm just going to draw a line. If you have a ruler or something straight, like a book edge, anything like that would work just fine. I'm going to use the edge of this book I have here just to draw a line going all the way across as a latitude line. Again, I'm using green because green is the color I'm using for my latitude. All right, now it doesn't really seem to be running through, and that's 48 degrees north, Africa at all. It runs through Europe, but it doesn't seem to be running through Africa very much. So I'm going to go ahead and work the rest of this problem out so you can see how I want you to see how I work the whole thing out. But I can already see that this answer choice isn't looking good. The next one is my longitude numbers, which again I'm going to do in yellow, 105 degrees east. So now I'm going to go to the top numbers here, which are my, again, longitude numbers, or my bottom numbers, whichever you prefer. Okay, and I'm looking for 105. Okay, well I see a 90, 120 there. Okay, so maybe 105 would be closer to that 90. Now I'm noticing something. The lines curve, and this is east, so I know it's on the eastern side, remember? So east, west. Okay, so again, if you don't remember the trick for the compass rose, never eat sour watermelons. So this is the eastern hemisphere, and it's looking again for the eastern hemisphere. Now I've noticed something, the lines curve, and it doesn't go anywhere near Africa. We end up in Asia somewhere. And so I can eliminate letter C, and that leaves letter D, but I want to make sure, because I did eliminate the first two right away, I didn't check them, and so maybe letter D is incorrect, and maybe I made a mistake, and maybe letter A or B is correct. Let's check. So go ahead and pause the video, work out 0 degrees and 30 degrees east, and see if you land in Africa. All right, now that you've paused the video, worked it out, let's see if you got it correctly. Again, green is for latitude lines, yellow is for longitude. So 0 degrees latitude is the equator. I've already have it labeled, and I can see it does run through Africa. Africa is a very warm place because it runs through the equator, or the equator runs through Africa. Remember, the closer to the equator you are, the hotter it is. The further away from the equator you are, the colder it is. So we have 0 degrees, done, check. All right, now I got to get my yellow for my longitude lines, and that's going to be 30 degrees. So I'm going to use my bottom numbers here again. Here we have 30, and I'm going to follow that line all the way up, and it hits me right to Africa. Cool. So that's my answer, letter D. If you got it correct, good job. Give yourself a big pat on the back. Lady Gaga claps. Big 1-2 clap. 1-2. Whatever you want to do, however you want to celebrate, it's fine by me. Good job if you got this correct. Moving on to number 2. Which location is within the Atlantic Ocean? Number 2 is basically asking about oceans. So again, another tip you want to practice is labeling all the oceans in the world. Now I want to use a different color pencil so I can identify the oceans versus continents. Remember, there's 7 continents, 4 oceans, but depending on which part of the world you live in, they do teach that there are 5. So remember, after the 7 continent song, there is a 4 ocean song. North America, South America, Europe, Asia, and Australia, Africa, Antarctica. These are the continents. Clap, clap. Now you're going to go into the song, the part of the song that talks about the oceans, and it's going to drag out, and then it goes Indian, Arctic, Atlantic, Pacific, and Southern are the oceans of the world. Clap, clap. I teach you all 5 just because I want you to make sure you know all 5, just in case they quiz you on that. But usually they leave the Southern Ocean out. So again, it's Indian, and that's easy to remember because it's right below India. Arctic, okay, it's at the very top. You can remember that because that's at the Arctic Circle. What they call the Arctic Circle is a very, very cold place up in the North Pole, basically. Then we have the Atlantic. Think the Titanic. Have you ever seen that movie? This is where a lot of trade happens between the world. A lot of trade happened throughout history. You're going to be learning a lot about the slave trade across the Atlantic Ocean. Then we have the Pacific, which it doesn't just exist over on this side. It exists on this side because remember, we live on a sphere. For all my flat earthers. And then the bonus one we're going to include at the bottom, just bonus. I'll do that in yellow, Southern Ocean. All right, so again, we're looking at the question, which location is within the Atlantic Ocean? We just finished labeling the 4 oceans of the world, as well as the 5th Southern Ocean. But it's asking about the Atlantic, and so we see it's here. I'm going to go ahead and draw some coordinates right there and see what I get, and then see if my answer matches the answers here. I want you to do the same process I taught you earlier. Again, latitude, longitude. If you have 2 different colors, like me, green for latitude, yellow for longitude, that would really help. Okay, so go ahead and press the pause on the video right now. Press the pause button on this video so you can try it out for yourself. And if you haven't tried it out already, do that now. If you have, good job. Go ahead and continue playing the video and see if you got it right. So here we go. So we have latitude 30 degrees north. I'm going to stop right here because here's where the Atlantic Ocean, this is the point I want. 30 degrees west. Looks like we're missing an answer choice here, but if you look up here, they printed at the top. Okay? Now I don't see any answer choices that match mine because my answer choices again were 30 degrees north and 30 degrees west. So that didn't work. Let's try another process and see if any one of these work. So we already have our 30 degrees north plotted out, and it's at 150 degrees west, which is our longitude line. So I'm going to try yellow. So 150 is going to be way over here. Now that leaves me in the Pacific Ocean. So that's not the answer. Okay, 30 degrees north, 80 degrees east. But that east, the Atlantic Ocean doesn't exist on the eastern hemisphere, unlike the Pacific Ocean, right? It's a big difference between the Atlantic Ocean, which only exists here, and the Pacific Ocean. Okay, so this one's out. Then I see 0 degrees, okay, latitude, which is already here, and it does run through the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, and then I see 60 degrees east. But that doesn't make sense because that's on, again, the eastern hemisphere. And again, the Atlantic Ocean only exists in the western. This is out. 20 degrees north. Let's try that. That's kind of close to what I was at. So here we have 20 degrees north for latitude. So that's going to be somewhere in between the 30 and the 0. I'm going to put it closer to the 30 here. And then 60 degrees west. So if I follow the 60, don't forget, different color, longitude, 60, it does land right next to the Caribbean islands, right there on the Atlantic Ocean. So the answer should have been letter D. Good job. Remember, the process I want you to work when working on these types of questions is trying to find your own coordinates first, latitude, longitude, and if they don't match, then you can go and trial and error one by one. Again, it's a step-by-step process, so if you have to follow the steps like I did, good job. Going to number 3, give an absolute location that would be found within the state of Texas. Okay, so now we need to figure out an absolute location that would exist in the state of Texas. So here's the United States. If you don't know, this here is the United States in North America. Okay, it does include Alaska, and it does include Hawaii, but it's asking about Texas, which Hawaii is in the Pacific Ocean somewhere out here. So here's Texas right here. And so I can see it runs through the 30-degree line. Okay, so I'm going to use that 30 degrees north on my coordinates. Okay, so I already have it written out, so I'm just going to go ahead and write it here. 30 degrees north, latitude. Now let's see how we can write it for longitude. If I look at my numbers at the top, I see a 90, and next to 90 I can maybe say 100. Maybe 110. I'm going to say 105 degrees. And again, let's think about it. Prime meridian divides the Earth between east and west, so this is going to be 105 degrees west. All right? 105 west. If you got anything close to this, good job. Give yourself a big 1-2 clap, a big tiger roar. You're doing awesome. Going on to question number 4. At which latitude would you expect to find the warmest climate? So it's asking about latitude lines. Again, these are the latitude, latitude, flat lines, right? The one's going like this, like a ladder. Okay, so which one has the warmest climate? I taught you that earlier. That is going to be the one nearest the equator. So that should be 0 degrees. Okay, there is no other answer for that one. Which latitude, again, latitude, latitude, would you expect to find the coldest climate? You can actually write down 2 different answers here, okay? So you can either write 90 degrees north or 90 degrees south. Because if we look at our latitude numbers here, the biggest number we can go to is 90 north hemisphere and 90 southern hemisphere. All right, so that concludes the review for your study guide. Be on the lookout for the next video, which is going to be going over the next lesson we left off on in the unit curriculum, basically the environmentalism unit 4. If you guys have any questions, remember to reach me on Teams. Remind what you should be working on next is the assignment I am going to assign to this video. You're also going to have a quiz, so you're going to get 2 grades to basically check and see if you did the work on this page. Okay? So again, click the assignment that I'm going to be uploading after the video. After you're done practicing what we just practiced here independently on your own, you're going to submit that assignment and then take the quiz. Okay, just like you would in class, you have your independent practice and your exit ticket. Hope you guys have a great day. Good luck on your assignments and your quizzes. If you have any questions, again, you know where to reach me if you want to beat me. Bye, guys.